Good morning. All right, look at all these people here. Good gracious, you got a lot of vision, right? I'm going to start by asking a question this morning, okay? Because I didn't really start asking this question until I was 40, probably 41, 42 years old. From 20 to 30, how many of you made a lot of mistakes from 20 to 30? Raise your hand. Thank God I'm not the only one. But, okay, okay, good. All right, 20 years old, I was a basketball coach, and from 20 to 30, I was working probably about 80 hours a week, every week. I used to get up and go to church on Sunday morning, and I would go straight to my office and work. And so really from 20 to 30, that's what I did. I coached kids. I worked 80 hours a week. I didn't think about money. I was happy doing what I love doing, trying to be the best at that, right? There's a lot of sacrifice to that. There was a lot of collateral damage to that. I didn't have any friends. I didn't see my family. And although we accomplished a whole lot, around 30 years old, I started asking, okay, what do I want to do? And the reason I retired at 31 years old from high school coaching was because I kept having this kind of just calling on my life that you're supposed to be doing something bigger, right? And I felt like a level 10 person kind of stuck in a level 4 opportunity. Anybody feel like that today? Or you're a highly talented person, yet you are undercapitalized. Okay. And I see a lot of people in the world and I go, that's a talented person. Because this week I was in San Antonio and I was in Houston, and I come across all these really talented people. And I'm like, man, you're so talented. You should be doing what? More. You have all this skill and all this talent. You should be doing more than what you're currently doing. Don't you think you should be doing more? Like, oh, absolutely, I should be doing more. But they don't know how to do it. And so 31 years old, I remember it like it was yesterday. I literally went and spoke that morning to Reeve Sane. If you live in Murfreesboro, you know where that is. It was a pharmacy here. And on the way back, I said, man, I'm going to retire today. 31 years old. I'm going to walk away from this. The only thing I had ever known my whole life. I had security and insurance and benefits and a consistent salary. I was at the top of my coaching career. We had just won a championship the year before. But I started to cultivate a bigger vision for my life. And it's like, you're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be going around the world and coaching people. And no longer just coaching 30 people was not big enough for me. So 31 years old, I left that and I started a business. How many of you remember the first day you started your business? The first year you started your business? How much fun was that first year? And remember, at 31 years old, I didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability. I truly didn't. As Kiyosaki says, I didn't know the difference between an asset and a hole in the ground. And so I just thought if I worked hard enough and pushed hard enough, we would make money. And I went out and spoke all over the place. And at the end of the year, my accountant sat down with me and I said, okay, how'd we do? I know we made a bunch of money. And she said, well, you actually lost, I think it was $75,000. I said, no, there's no way that's possible. I worked hard. I went all over the country. I spoke to people. How did I lose $75,000? And she said, well, you didn't generate enough revenue to offset your expenses. You actually lost money. You didn't make any money in your first year. Okay? And it was tough, man. And in those days, I didn't have a customer getting strategy. We'll talk about that today. I didn't know how to follow up like I do today. I didn't know how to generate leads like I do today. I didn't really know anything, but I just had a lot of confidence. And I had a lot of belief in me. And I knew that it was going to be a fight, but I was going to find a way to win. And I knew if I just kept going into battle every day, good things were going to happen, right? But I didn't think about the structure of my business. Okay? Now I want you to hear me say something. A business is designed before there is a business. A poorly designed business has to be redesigned at some point in the future. Now, how many of you think the structure of your business may need to be redesigned before next year? Raise your hand. So I want you to hear this, because the guy in my coaching program one day said, I read all your books, and he said, you're going to go do everything you talk about in your books. You're going to become a person of interest, just like you talk about in your books, and one day you're going to have all this demand and all of these leads and all this possibility, and he said, you're actually going to wake up one day and hate your business. What do you think I said? I said, man, I would never do that. I love people. Right? I love this. And one day I rolled over and looked at my wife and I go, I hate this business. Now, I don't hate the people. I love the people. I love this, right? But I hated the structure of the business. So part of visioneering a business for 2023 will be, we got to look at the structure of your business. Because how many of you have things every day that just absolutely irritate you to death? And you're like, if I could just get rid of this. And how many of you go, man, if this worked a lot better than what it's currently working, and it should work better than this, right? But there's parts of your business that you're going to find today that have missing structures. And a missing structure is a void. It's a gap. It's a hole. And for many people, they just live with these forever. It's like an irritant that you just live with forever. And you talk about it. And you complain about it. And if you're married, you go home and complain to your spouse about it. How many have done that? And you're still talking about the same problems today that you were talking about 3 years ago. Right? And my wife, who's here today, you'll see, she'll just tell me. She's like, look, you either do something about it or quit talking about it. And then I'm like, well, it ain't that easy, right? Like, it ain't as easy as you're making it. She's like, yes, it is. You walk in tomorrow and you do something about it. Are you with me? So we're going to get into structures of the business today. And we're going to kind of tap into all these things. We're going to tap into what are you supposed to be doing? How are you doing it at a very high level? What's worked for you this year and what didn't work? How many of you had things that didn't work this year? I did. I had strategies that I thought were going to work. I had concepts I thought was going to work. And then I've had things that worked really good. And isn't it interesting, we have things that work good and then we quit doing them. I asked people, what's the best thing you did? And I said, do this. And I said, well, are you still doing it? I said, well, no, I ain't doing that. I'm like, well, why aren't you doing that? Because that's work, right? So you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. See, you could have sat down on your own and done this exercise, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to facilitate this for you so that when you walk out of here, you have a clarity. You have crystallized a clarity about what you want in 2023. January came from the Greek goddess named Janus. She had two heads, one that looked forward to the future and one that looked back on the past. January means new beginning. That's what it means. Start over, right? But most people next year will turn around and do the exact same things next year that they did this year, okay? So we're going to have a lot of fun today. So don't stress. I know some of you are new. Welcome to the Lodge. We're excited that you're here. There's a lot of people who are watching online today. And at the end of the day, my hope for you is that, man, it's like, this is what I'm doing. Maybe you got some renewed enthusiasm because I'm sure some of you are tired. How many of you are tired? And it's been a long grind this year. Yes or no? And you pushed hard. Okay, I was in San Antonio Tuesday, and on the way over there, I told Eric White, I said, man, I don't feel like doing this at all. And these people come to see me speak, you know, and he was laughing, and I was laughing. But when I got in front of those people, I turned it on, man, because that's what the pros do. They don't listen to their feelings. Amateurs listen to their feelings. Professionals do not listen to their feelings. I don't feel like prospecting. I don't feel like following up. I don't feel like doing these things. So you have to learn to activate the drive so that you can go do what you're supposed to do. So let's start with the big question. When I was 31 years old, I had a whiteboard. Now we have these fancy boards, which are called jam boards. But when I was 31 years old, I had a house. I had retired from athletic coaching. Maybe it's 33 because my house had gotten a little bit nicer. After my third year in business, I made a little bit of money, and I bought a new house. That's what you do, right? And I told the guy building the house that I wanted a big whiteboard in my office that I could draw on at any time. So just make the whole wall a whiteboard, and you could write on it. Okay? And over here, I put this concept, this vision. I was 31 years old, and I simply wrote this concept up here: to become the next Covey. See, I was influenced by Stephen Covey from 18 to 25. That was my hero. That's who I studied. That's who books I read. That's whose conferences I went to. And for 7 years, I studied under this one dude. And a lot of what you hear me talk about today came during that very important cycle of my life from 18 to 25. The whole person theory. How do you tap into the body, mind, heart, and spirit? And if you've ever heard my story, I began teaching my players those 7 habits of highly effective people. So I was studying Covey. And I was teaching my players these habits. And I was teaching them all these principles. And people were always asking me, how are you winning all these games? It's because I was going over here to the business world, and I was studying business, and I was bringing it back to athletics. And nobody was really doing that as coaches. This was foreign. The other coaches made fun of me The other coaches ridicule me. The other coaches call me Mr. Motivation. The other coaches said, who do you think you are? They're like, and then they would turn around and say, now, how are you doing? How are you winning? Like, they make fun of me. Then they'd say, well, how are you beating us? And I'd be like, well, I'm coaching the whole person, body, mind, heart, and spirit. I'm tapping to the whole kid. My kids have more chemistry. They have more trust. They have more buy-in. They have more leadership. In essence, my kids are just smarter than your kids. And that's because I am smarter than you. Just joking. But I was like, this is what I'm doing. And they would literally look at me like I flew in from another planet. Like, what is this guy teaching these kids? But all they knew that the kids were winning and they were playing at heart. So this was a very instrumental part of my life. And I said, man, I want to become like him. One day when I grow up, I want to be like that dude. I want to impact that many people.